the UFC had just announced the White House card. And I'm going to lie to you guys, when Dana White was talking about this prior to announcing it, he said it was going to be 6, 7 title fights. And it was 2 title fights. Now, let's talk about the fights, okay? The main event is Justin Gaethje taking on Ilia Topuria. I like that fight. I think it's a great fight. I think the biggest thing, like off the top of my head, I think Ilia Topuria knocks him out. But I do see a world where Justin Gaethje could knock him out as well. But Ilia Topuria is so damn good, and his IQ is really high, and he can take a shot, and he damn well can give a shot. But the other flip side of this, what makes me excited, is to see how Justin Gaethje approaches it after spending time with him playing football. Because when he was talking about Paddy Pimblett, he was like, well, Paddy can't kick, so I was okay going into his power. How will he approach this fight against Ilia Topuria, where someone who can kick and has a lot of power? And then in the co-main event, you have the interim heavyweight champion, Ciryl Gane. Well, there is no interim heavyweight champion. They're making an interim heavyweight champion because the heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall, is still unable to defend his belt. So they have Alex Pereira taking on Ciryl Gane. This is an interesting fight. This is, you know, we have 2 strikers coming to fight. We have Ciryl Gane, who is definitely the bigger athlete, who's very good about avoiding getting hit. He has a side karate stance. Taking on Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira, you know, the former world champion in the middleweight division and the light heavyweight division, and also Glory kickboxing champion. That should be an interesting fight, just because it's Alex Pereira going up to heavyweight, and see how he does against guys.
He's going to lose to Ilia Topuria in the main event in the White House. If he pulls it off, it'll be cinema, okay? And I'll assume that the rig is in, and Topuria has been paid $10 million to make the US look good on the world stage. Because Gaethje, he's the All-American. He's red, white, he bleeds red, white, and blue, brother. You know what I mean? He's going to be there. He's the only American that's even in conversations to ever be in a title fight. Unless they did Yan O'Malley too. Which people would still complain about, by the way, but it's the only other.
Maybe I'm being a sourpuss Sally. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a pessimist. But the UFC's White House card was just announced, and for what we were promised, this is a massive letdown. And I'm gonna explain why this had every opportunity to bring the UFC back to prominence, to stake their claim once again as the combat sports outlet across boxing, MMA, and everything in between. And they fumbled it. Not because they had to, not because there was no other way to do it, but because the UFC is in a place right now where this is the product. And I guess there is no fighting it anymore. You just have to get used to it. What do I mean? The breakdown. Let's go. Let's contextualize this, right? For the last however many months, Dana White, who sat down with me, who sat down with other people, who had talked about the UFC White House card, had essentially said that this would be like the UFC Sphere on steroids, right? UFC Freedom 250 is what they're calling it. And yeah, you know, if you mention steroids in a UFC card, how do you not have John Jones involved? We'll get to that in a second. But Dana and the entire UFC and the teases that have come from being this, you know, insane, massive card, putting it together, how it was going to blow everything out of the water, it was going to be badass and all this. The hype around this has been ridiculous. And it's given you a sense of like, oh man, something big is coming. Something, you know, along the lines of a UFC 100, 200, 300. Or like when, again, you know, Conor McGregor Habib was announced. Conor McGregor came back to the Donald Cerrone fight was announced. When Jorge Masvidal fought Nate Diaz for the BMF. When George St. Pierre came back at UFC 217. It had that kind of feel to it. And I think that's the biggest problem I have right now, was the hype did not match the delivery. This is like ordering Domino's pizza and somehow Little Caesars is delivered. You don't know how it got there. It's definitely not what you asked for. It's clearly not what you were promised, but it's pizza, so you'll eat it. This is kind of how I feel about the UFC White House card. But without further ado, here it is. Drum roll, please. Okay, UFC Freedom 250. And honestly, this isn't a bad card, okay? Because you have Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the World Lightweight Championship. I have my problems there, but okay. Champion versus interim champion, do your deal. Then the co-main event, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane for the interim heavyweight championship. Okay, Alex Pereira making his way up to heavyweight. We knew this was coming when he dropped the strap at 205. Ciryl Gane, I have my problems with it. We'll come back to it in a second.
All right, friends, big breaking news on this Saturday, March 7th. UFC 326 is actually happening as I'm recording this right now, but at approximately 10 p.m. Eastern time, our long international nightmare came to an end. Why? Because the UFC finally announced the White House card. They're calling it UFC Freedom 250. Of course, July 4th will be the United States' 250th birthday. Obviously, this event is happening on June 14th, a Sunday night, which just so happens to be the president's birthday, and they finally announced it, and so now we can talk about it. The main event is, in fact, going to be Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. A unification bout, of course. Gaethje won that belt back on January 24th. Ilia is the man. He won that belt in June of last year, and he's coming back to fight in the main event of the White House card. So it's Spain/Georgia versus the United States on June 14th. That's the main event. The co-main event is Alex Pereira moving up to heavyweight to fight Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. More on that in a moment. Also on the card, I'm reading this because I don't want to mess it up. Sugar Sean O'Malley against Ayman Zahabi. So that's the United States versus Canada. By the way, Pereira, Brazil versus France. So there's one fight that doesn't feature an American, although he does live in Connecticut and sort of feels like an adopted American at this point. Michael Chandler does end up on the card. He goes up against Mauricio Hufi. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins, America versus America, and Steve Garcia versus Diego Lopez. They love Diego Lopez. He's getting this opportunity after just getting a chance to fight for the belt. So in the end, as I told you, 6 fights, 2 title fights. It was not the 7 to 8 title fights as was initially promised. It's a marquee main event. I know that there are some people who are upset. I know that there are some people who are trying to say like, hey, this is a letdown. This is an incredible 6-fight card, and it was never going to be 7 to 8 title fights. That was never going to happen. That would screw up the rest of their schedule. Ilia Topuria coming back against Justin Gaethje is a massive, massive fight. It is a marquee fight. It is one of the biggest fights of the year. Topuria coming back after everything he's been through, almost exactly a year.
Alright, so here's what just went down. Something that felt like a complete fantasy. The kind of thing you joke about but never actually expect to see just became totally real. The White House fight card is officially confirmed, and we're not dealing with whispers or maybe this, maybe that anymore. This thing is locked in, it's happening, and the entire MMA world just lost its mind. From elite fighters to seasoned commentators to fans who barely follow the sport, everybody's jumping on social platforms, firing up podcasts, giving interviews, because the whole combat sports universe is trying to wrap their heads around what might just be the most insane, groundbreaking spectacle we've ever seen. The big question now is just how enormous this thing is going to get, and trust me, we're gonna walk through every single detail.
Dana, you talked about you don't want to say what fight fell out, which is fair enough, but there is obviously...
Well, there's weird circumstances around it that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay. There is speculation, of course, that it's John Jones.
No, it's not.
Was John
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was John Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't. First of all, I've told you why I wouldn't do it. And number 2, some guy with meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. John Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been, doctors say he should have hip replacement. So
Okay.
add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The John Jones thing is bullshit.
Okay.
I'm not saying they weren't talking to John Jones and that John Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is John Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight, after I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never gonna happen.
Right after they dropped the official lineup for this insane White House card, reporters immediately cornered Dana White about some crazy speculation that had been floating around involving a fight that was never actually on the books. Naturally, once John Jones's name started getting thrown around in all the chatter following the announcement, Dana was super quick to shut down any possibility of that particular matchup happening, explaining to everyone that there were already several solid reasons why the Jones fight was off the table for this card from day one, finally putting all that speculation to bed.
That tells you how great Ilia Topuria is. Because he went through him.
Like,
when the dust settled on all the wild action from this legendary White House card, Joe Rogan and his commentary crew sitting ringside had to address the absolutely terrifying level of control that Ilia Topuria put on display. During their breakdown of his coming clash with Justin Gaethje and analyzing how their styles might clash, Rogan kept going back to Topuria's mind-blowing destruction of Charles Oliveira, breaking it down piece by piece as the type of clinic that proved to everyone just how special and legitimately terrifying this perfect record fighter really is. When you've got Joe Rogan talking like that about a performance, you know something incredible went down.
Well, okay, so Justin Gaethje, we were just talking about the White House card there. It's now official. You're headlining with Ilia Topuria for Undisputed. Congratulations. That is huge. You didn't reveal the news when you came and sat with us earlier. We won't take offense, but...
No, I didn't know. I wasn't sure.
No,
you didn't know. I was not sure.
Hold on, you're saying that when he made the announcement, that was a surprise to you.
That was 100% confirmation that I was the main event. I didn't know that. I didn't know who the co-main event, or if I was the co-main event, or who the other fight was at the time.
I should have known something was up when they came in my ear. They said, ask Justin 2 questions. Don't talk about what's next for him. Don't talk about the next fight. Don't talk about the White House. I should have saw it coming.
They know I'm too honest.
Even while the White House card was getting its official reveal and the MMA community was going completely insane, Justin Gaethje confessed he wasn't totally sure in his own head that he'd actually secured the headliner against Ilia Topuria, getting real about that exact moment when everything was announced and what was running through his mind. Gaethje explained it needed a moment for everything to really register, for it to actually hit him that he was officially topping one of the most hyped, most eagerly awaited cards in MMA history. Getting that final confirmation transformed his early excitement into pure anticipation and laser focus, while fans across the globe started marking their calendars for what's shaping up to be an absolutely epic battle between two world-class warriors.
This matchup with Ilia.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, I've obviously thought about it, you know, him being the champion, me being the guy that wants to be the champion, but I don't technically have a breakdown right now. My coach already has that. I guarantee if my coach was here, he'd talk your ear off about what the plan is, but I am excited to figure out the puzzle that is Ilia Topuria. He's a great boxer. His 2-3 is the nicest 2-3 I may have ever seen in this sport. And he's a dangerous dude. So I'm excited to showcase my skills. You know, I showcased through the many experiences that I can fight different styles of fights. We know that styles make matchups, and I'm going to do my best to...
Looking at the actual fight and all the prep work that goes into it, Gaethje confesses he's still putting together the ideal approach and tactics for dealing with someone as lethal as Topuria. He's done his homework on Topuria's abilities inside the cage, broken down his fights over and over, and fully understands the enormous task of stepping up against such a skilled, technically sound opponent who can end fights in a heartbeat. Gaethje says he's truly excited to crack the code that Topuria represents and display the flexibility and problem-solving skills that have helped him adjust and evolve against every single fighting style he's encountered throughout his entire journey. With everything on the line like never before on this unbelievable White House platform, with everyone on Earth tuning in, he's completely committed to giving everything he's got inside that octagon and showing without question why he earned his place in the main event under the brightest lights of the year.
People are going to say how this fight come about. Here's the God honest truth. I told UFC I would love to fight at the White House. I will fight anybody at the White House. I will fight Ilia. I will fight Islam. I will fight Habib. No, but for real, I said I want to fight on the White House card. Please let me fight on the White House card. I don't care who it is. I want to be on there. I want the opportunity to, you know, I fought at the Sphere, which is really cool. The White House, I think there's 6 fights on the White House card. There's me plus 11 other people that get to make the walk from the Oval Office. That's what they're saying. You walk from the Oval Office into the White House lawn, and it's it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. It doesn't even feel like it's reality. Once in a lifetime opportunity. America versus Canada. I'm pretty sure we whooped their ass in hockey. Don't really watch it, but I heard that's true. But USA versus Canada makes sense. I like it. I'm happy. I'm excited. 14 weeks, plenty of time. I'm pretty sure it's on a Sunday, June 14th. Is that Trump's birthday? Some shit?
For Sean O'Malley, who's always been vocal about his big picture goals, getting the opportunity to compete on the White House card was something he literally couldn't turn down, regardless of any other factors. The rising star made it perfectly clear to everyone listening that he didn't care about the matchup details, didn't worry about who they put in front of him. He simply wanted to step into that legendary setting and become part of something truly special. Picturing in his head the completely unreal experience of moving from the Oval Office through those corridors of influence out to the White House lawn to throw down. I don't care who they give me, I just need to be on that card, O'Malley stated with total honesty. And with just a select few fighters getting that lifetime opportunity, that incredibly exclusive chance, he acknowledges it's something almost too massive, too important to completely understand or process. For O'Malley, this isn't just another bout on his resume, it's a defining moment that could truly shape his entire career and lock his name forever into MMA legend.
Oh, so I feel amazing. This is a great opportunity for me. I worked so hard for staying the big cards in UFC. Now UFC sending me the chance to fight the White House. And yeah, this is a great opportunity for my career, for the future. I tell for my family, my brothers, my friends, like yeah, when I stay in UFC, I fight in the great cards.
After O'Malley's clear excitement and passion for the card, Diego Lopez is just as pumped, maybe even more excited, to become part of this legendary White House spectacle. He describes it as an amazing chance that could genuinely alter the entire direction of his career and create financial stability for his loved ones for decades ahead, emphasizing just how meaningful this opportunity is on a deeply personal level that goes way beyond the fighting itself. For Lopez, being on this legendary stage alongside some of the sport's most recognized names, the icons and superstars of MMA, is both a privilege that he takes very seriously and an opportunity to permanently etch his name into mixed martial arts history.
Ilia Topuria taking on Justin Gaethje for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world. Also, I didn't expect this one. Alex Pereira, he's on the card. I expected that. I thought versus John Jones, but no. John Jones is not on the card. It is Alex Pereira taking on Cyril Gane, obviously from France, obviously just fought for the undisputed title against Tom Aspinall. Sadly, that fight ended because of the eye poke. But this is the world we're living in, and that is a crazy fight, man, because Pereira, Cyril Gane, two of the best kickboxers that we've seen in the UFC. Simple as that. So that is very interesting, and it's just a great fight. I mean, two big, powerful strikers. Pereira with the power, Gane with the movement, very, very light on the feet. Excited for that one. Michael Chandler's on the card. Who was he taking on? Maurizio Hufi? I think it was Hufi. Maurizio Hufi, I'm trying to remember. Ayman Zahabi back on there versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Michael Chandler versus Hufi. Oh, Bo Nickel taking on Kyle Dawkins, which is a bit of a... I expected Bo Nickel.
Analyzing the freshly revealed White House card matchup by matchup, Michael Bisping couldn't contain his real enthusiasm for the loaded card that Dana White assembled. He spotlighted the headliner between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje for the undisputed lightweight crown, breaking down what makes it such an intriguing battle, while describing the striking war between Alex Pereira and Cyril Gane as a collision between two of the most elite kickboxers currently active in the UFC. Bisping also made sure to mention the amazing talent throughout the entire card from first fight to last, referencing fighters like Michael Chandler, who finally secured his position, to unexpected pairings like Beneil Dariush versus Kyle Dawkins, painting the whole event as loaded with devastating power, championship level ability, and battles that fans will be discussing and breaking down for decades.
The peak of the peak, the best card we've ever seen, and a position has been reserved for Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins, and then we've also got Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. Some amazing fights, but we can do better than this. We can do better than this. I've made my own White House card, which isn't in fairy tale land, like a lot of people's White House cards were, because we're going to go through that in today's video as well. But we can do better than this. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins is not a matchup where you're like, we've got to save this for the White House card. Put it in the Apex. Put it in a crowded arena. On the Adesanya you apply for co-main event of UFC Fight Night Seattle. To save this to be in special reservation for the White House card, in my opinion, is insane. Absolutely insane. But these are amazing fights. I do want to mention now, this card was hyped up to be the best thing we've ever seen. That's why a lot of people are having this.
Describing the White House card as the absolute pinnacle when it comes to UFC events, MMA Guru shared his own comprehensive thoughts on the different fights and how they measure up. While he gave props to certain matchups like Beneil versus Kyle Dachau for being truly thrilling and competitive, and Lopez versus Steve Garcia for having serious potential for excitement, he suggested that some fights don't really require the exclusive White House treatment to be special, arguing they might perform equally well or maybe even generate more buzz on a standard UFC fight night without all the additional expectations. Even with a few placement choices he questioned in his view and some matchmaking calls he would have handled differently, MMA Guru acknowledged there's definitely no arguing that this card is building up to be one of the most discussed, most examined events in the sport's entire history.
Free action, but let's be honest, this is a fucking sick card, okay? That's the problem, but it's the UFC 300 problem, where Dana White sells us these fucking fairy tales. We're gonna have 7 title fights on the card, we're hearing. At one point during the build-up of all of this White House card talk. 7 title fights? That must be why the UFC cards have been so shit recently. Like this one with Oliveira versus Holloway, which had a co-main event of Baralho versus Derrida, and for some reason some of these other fights are on the main card. Oh wow, Font versus Rosas Jr. The pay-per-views have been suffering recently, and we haven't really had any stacked cards because we thought the UFC was holding out to just put all of the major matchups on this White House card. But let's be honest, I'll get into that other stuff in a second and we'll trash it enough. Topuria versus Gaethje and Pereira versus Gane on the same night.
Taking his analysis even deeper with his signature detailed style, MMA Guru describes the White House card as sick from a pure fun factor perspective, but acknowledges it brings what he calls the traditional UFC 300 issue, which means overinflated fairy tale expectations that could fall short of reality, with initial speculation floating around about 7 championship fights and various high-stakes battles like Ilia Topuria versus Gaethje and Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane getting locked in. He observes that certain fights seem strangely positioned on the card, almost like they don't really match the scale of the occasion, causing dedicated fans to wonder if the UFC has been purposely saving some of the most explosive possible fights just for this legendary card, rather than making them happen sooner. Still, despite these small complaints and his critical observations, he confesses the pure star power and concentration of world-class talent makes it completely impossible not to get hyped about what's ahead. Additionally, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, widely considered one of the greatest competitors ever, emphasized the explosive possibilities and various ways things could unfold in the main event between Topuria and Gaethje. He explained in his analysis that while Topuria might get the betting favor to land a finish based on his latest showings, Gaethje absolutely has the power and know-how to completely flip the fight in an instant, creating a matchup that's truly unpredictable and completely electrifying for viewers. Johnson also examined the co-main in detail, focusing on the striking battle between Alex Pereira and Cyril Gane, highlighting Gane's physical advantages, his world-class movement, and his slippery fighting approach that could create challenges against Pereira's devastating finishing ability and pinpoint striking, creating the foundation for what could be an incredible striking showcase that fans will analyze for decades. Going even further into the White House card and what might have been different, Johnson revealed some alternate fights he personally would have preferred to see the UFC put together instead. While the matchup between Sean and Aljamain Sterling is solid and makes perfect sense from a competitive angle, Johnson confessed he was really hoping to see a battle with Corey Sandhagen instead, which he believes would have been even more thrilling. He also proposed switching out some other fights on the card, like maybe replacing Beneil versus Kyle Dachau with battles featuring even bigger names that mainstream fans would instantly recognize, including possibly a fight with Charles Oliveira mixed in somewhere, to bring even more star power and widespread appeal to what's already an incredible card. Meanwhile, experienced MMA journalist Ariel Helwani placed the entire White House card in proper context, encouraging fans and managing expectations by advising them not to get too swept up in the early buzz and promises of 7 or 8 championship fights that were getting tossed around. While that kind of title fight stacking was never going to happen from a realistic standpoint, and everyone in the business understood that, Helwani emphasized that the card still provides a truly marquee headliner that matches the moment, with Topuria taking on Gaethje in what is legitimately one of the biggest, most anticipated clashes of the entire year. He also pointed out the fact that Alex Pereira is jumping up to heavyweight to face Cyril Gane, which could set him up for a future battle with interim champion Tom Aspinall. And Helwani applauded the UFC's choice to maintain the interim title structure rather than stripping anyone or adding more chaos. Then Helwani explored some of the key narratives and behind-the-scenes action that unfolded during the card's development. He mentioned that Michael Chandler finally secured a valuable spot on the card after being stuck in uncertainty, praised Beneil as an excellent addition who earned this opportunity, and described the fight between Garcia and Lopez as a truly entertaining, action-heavy battle that should deliver fireworks. Helwani also shared some behind-the-scenes details that discussions for a potential Alex Pereira versus Ezwan John Jones super fight collapsed over financial disputes and money problems between the fighters and the organization, while pointing out how surprisingly fast the Pereira versus Gane fight came together once talks began, demonstrating the UFC's skill at finalizing marquee battles when everyone's invested and working toward the same goal. So what's your honest take on this legendary White House card now that you've absorbed all the information and expert opinions? Did it meet all the excitement and expectations that were getting built up, or did it come up short of what you were hoping for when you first heard about the idea? Share your thoughts and detailed reactions in the comments below. Tell us who you're backing in these fights, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest updates, breaking news, and coverage from the MMA world as this legendary event approaches.